So in this video, I want to talk about something very important. And scripts don't close deals. Closers do, right? But there's a hidden skill that separates average reps from those who, effortlessly close deal after deal. So let's talk about the difference between essentially conscious versus unconscious competence. Okay. Conscious competence is like you can do the task well, but you have to think about every step consciously, right? You're looking at a script, you're doing all these different things, often relying heavily on scripts or frameworks, and it's draining and it feels forced. Unconscious competence is the exact opposite of that. You're closing naturally, you're conversational, it's effortless, and you're in flow. You're not reading off of a script, but you're genuinely connecting with the prospect. Okay. Now, intuitively knowing exactly really what to say next as well. Now, prospects don't buy from salespeople, they buy from people who essentially understand them deeply, authentically, and that really only happens when competence becomes unconscious. Now, where this really matters is when you're doing conscious competence, you're really just going to be talking at someone, right? So you're going to be talking at someone. You're not really going to be listening to what they're saying. You're only going to be wanting to say what's next on your script or what's next in your process versus actually hearing the person and asking a question, or maybe stating a reframe or something like that, hearing weak language, just something that could potentially help you to close the sale. You're not really listening for those things because all you're looking at or all you're hearing is your own internal monologue on what you need to say next. And that's what leads to you not getting the sale because the prospect doesn't feel heard. They don't feel listened to, and they generally don't feel like you understand their core problem. But instead, when you get to conscious competence right here, you're more so listening, right? And I'm not talking about fucking talk time. I don't care about talk time. What I care about is that the prospect feels heard. You get the quality answers you need to receive, but also it comes down to a point where you don't miss the valuable information that's given to you. You don't miss tonality cues of what the prospect's saying, how they're saying it, because how a prospect says something is very important because then you can call it out and say, oh, I mean, you don't sound too sure, right? And these are the things that you need to pick up on because if you're just going to the next question on your script, you miss these important things. And this is where unconscious competence, you don't miss anything because you're truly locked into what the prospect is saying. So now you might be asking, like, how do I actually develop this unconscious competence? How do I actually fix this? And step one is going to be mastery. And you might be like, okay, mastery in what way? Okay. So mastery in understanding your framework or scripting, whatever you have very deeply to the point where it's unconscious. You don't have to think about it. There's no thought behind, what you're doing because that extra thought is just noise for your brain and thought where you're not putting thought towards what the prospect is saying, how they're saying it, and the actual answers that you need to hear to get the result that you want at the end of the call, which is the close and this person signing up so that you can help them. So you need to understand every purpose behind everything that you're asking. Rather than memorizing lines, understand the concept of what you're asking, understand your goal or what your aim is to achieve from each phase or each question that you're asking. What is the end result that you're looking for from that question, right? When you get into the call, you're trying to figure out why they're here, what their biggest challenge is. I don't care what way that you sell, but you should understand that on a very deep level versus just asking questions for the sake of asking questions and hoping that they give you the proper answer. You should understand how to give that proper answer. The second piece is going to be reps. So repetition is the most important thing, quite simply because if you don't have the repetition, it's really hard to get to that unconscious competence portion of things because you don't understand what you're doing. Like you're just doing things for the sake of doing them. And you're not doing them because you understand why, because you don't have the repetition. And reps and volume is going to be the most important thing ever, especially in sales, because that's what gains you experience. So, what I'd say for you is take as many sales conversations as you can, live the scenarios to create deeper learning rehearsals, right? So, in past sales conversations, what I mean is not real ones. Don't go in there and like fuck them up, okay? Role play a lot with people who understand your offer, understand what problems you're trying to solve, all these different things, because at that point, if you can do that, everything will become a lot easier. You have a lot more experience, so you can simulate a lot further experience. And when I say role play, I don't mean like, once or twice or anything like that. If you haven't reached a level where you truly don't understand your process yet, like through and through, then at that point, you should be role playing at least maybe 2 or 3 times a day. When you get something wrong, hop on with one of your colleagues say, hey, are you down to do a few role plays, right? So that way I can kind of get this process down a little bit further, because that is truly the only way that you can improve is repetition, because it is genuinely the only way that you truly get better. Okay. The next piece is going to be to record and review. Now, this goes along with repetition. So you can review your role plays if you're like not on an offer yet, but even if you are on an offer and you do a role play, and you're like, okay, I did really good there. I want to copy that. You want to figure out what you want to do more of, what you want to do less of, and basically places where you might need feedback from someone with greater experience. Having someone with greater experience than you is always a plus. Someone who's doing better than you, closing more. It doesn't matter if they've been in the space less time than you or more time, whatever. But if their numbers are better than yours, if they're open to reviewing your calls, why would you not take that option? Right? Have them review your calls. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to get a perspective from someone who's already doing better than you, because you advance a lot faster by having someone like that review your calls versus you, if you don't know how to solve a specific problem that you keep getting in every single call, trying to play the guessing game of figuring out where to go, what to do, because that just increases the time that you're confused. It increases the amount of time that you're actually ignorant in terms of how to actually solve your problem. So once you do the recording and the reviewing, you want to review probably at least one to two calls of yours a day. So you want to review a win every single day. I generally say to start the day, and then to end the day, you want to review a call that did not close. Okay. Now you might be thinking that's a lot of work. And yes, it is a lot of work, but if you want to make, 10, 20, 30, $40,000 a month, it's going to take work, and it's not going to be easy, because if it was easy, nobody would be doing it. Okay. So then realistically, nobody really is doing it in the space nowadays because they are bad. They are bad. They're trying to mix and match a bunch of different things instead of getting a process, sticking with it, and internalizing the process to the point where it's almost to perfection. Okay. So unconscious competence is going to come from three things so far, right? And that's mastering something, understanding something, and understanding the concepts and the whys of the questions and the processes that you're following. The next piece is going to be repetition. Get the reps in so that you are sufficient. You don't have to look at a script. You don't have to do these things, but you have the reps and simulated experience so that when you do get on calls, you're performing as strongly as possible. The third piece is going to be record and review. So your real sales calls and your role plays, record them, review them, see how you did good. What did you like that you did? What didn't you like? Where didn't you get an answer that was a quality answer? All of these things are they're data points for you. They're data points for your brain to actually improve. And again, it's another portion of repetition. It gives you pattern recognition to understand what is working and what is not working, what got me the quality answers I needed and what didn't. This is how you improve extremely fast, and this is how you achieve unconscious competence. Because the best salespeople, their calls are conversational, their calls are frictionless, and their calls are the most fun because they aren't trying to sell. They're just having a conversation. And unconscious competence is the only way you can do that. If you feel cringy asking the hard questions, it's because you're trying too hard to sell someone and you're not there to actually help them, listen to them, and you're not, again, in unconscious competence, because then at that point, you're not thinking about selling. You're just thinking, is this someone I can even help? And that should be your goal in every single conversation. Okay. So the last piece is going to be immediate iteration, right? Now that's the II here. Now, what immediate iteration means is after every call or after every week, realistically, is what I would recommend. Every week, have something that you're trying to improve. Once you've proven that you've improved that point and you've, instantly gone to try and improve it, move to the next thing that you need to improve. When you jump from thing to thing like this, after one is solved, only solve one problem at a time, because trying to solve, a bunch of BBs of problems, it's not going to work. All right. You want to focus on one specific problem that is going to give you the highest leverage, meaning it's going to increase your cash collected, it's going to increase your AOV, or it's going to increase your actual close rate. And then at that point, you're going to be operating at a much higher level versus someone who's trying to do all these different problems versus the guy that says, this is my main problem right now. If I fix this, it'll give me this outcome. That's the type of person you want to be. And that's how analytical you want to be with this. And that might sound crazy to some people, but at the end of the day, when you're in sales, you're running a business that gets, 10 to 15% profit margins. That's how I like to look at it. But if you're running a business that's getting 10 to 15% profit margins, you want to make sure you can be as profitable as possible by being the most efficient, right? Because at that point, you can't really increase your profit margins. You're not really going to probably get a raise. All you can do is increase your volume, your outputs, and your effort. Okay. So it's all you can do. You can't really increase the the pay percentage or your margins, because those are hard set by whatever company you sell for. So what you can improve is the amount of effort you put in, the training that you go into, and really the amount of volume that you're doing. Okay. And the more volume you do, the more at bats you will have, the better you will be. And I know a lot of people say it's not a, a volume game or anything like that, but it really is. You don't get good at anything without a considerable amount of reps or considerable amount of experience. So you have to put yourself in the best position to be able to get that experience. But after you get that feedback, how quickly you iterate based on that feedback is important. And that's why this immediate iteration is going to be the most important piece, because it's the action taking piece. If you're not taking action towards the things you learn, you're never going to improve. So 4 steps: master whatever framework you use, whatever sales methodology, master it. Okay. Step 2: get reps. Okay, get repetition through role plays, through sales conversations. Afterwards of that, record and review those. So record, review those, improve, and figure out what you did well, figure out what you didn't do well, figure out what you should keep in, and figure out what you should 100% take out. And then have someone also better than you go over those calls to see what you could actually improve. Notice the moments where you were in flow. Notice where your tonality was good, where the questions you were asking elicited quality answers from the prospect as well, and repeat those behaviors, iterate on those behaviors. And past that, the things that weren't working, take those out immediately. Figure out how to improve those and how to take those out. And that's where you do immediate iteration. Okay. So hope that gave you guys really a good perspective on what gains you unconscious competence. This is really a quick video, especially on the iPad here, but this is the first video I've done on the iPad. I'll probably keep it the same just because I love doing videos on the iPad. It's very simple, but again, it's a hidden skill that most people aren't aware of because you're too busy reading your script. And if you're conscious about every single thing that you do, you're thinking too much to think about the prospect. When you're unconscious, everything is conversational. It flows and it's natural. And why it matters is, again, you don't listen to the prospect, you don't hear them, you're not going to close. But the moment you hear them, the prospect feels heard. You can hear the tonality, the verbiage they're using, the way that they're saying things. You're going to close at a lot higher of a rate, and I promise you that. Past that, how to develop this is mastery, repetition. You're going to record and review your calls, and then past that, you're going to iterate immediately. You do those things, you will gain unconscious competence extremely quickly. And if you do it at a high level of volume, you do it at a high level of effort, which I know is hard, but again, if it was easy, it would not be worth doing. And you've heard that a million times, but you still don't understand it. Okay. So implement this. And I promise you, you will see an improvement, because unconscious competence is where really every top closer is. No top closer consistently looks at a script. You're never going to see it. You're never going to see it. They know their process through and through. If you think Matt Ryder, Yash, Dan Smith, if you think any of those guys, okay, Will Hinkson, Dean Carroza, anybody who you know as a very good salesperson, I guarantee you they don't sit there looking at a script the entire time. They've internalized the process to the point where it's unconscious competence, and that's why they are good. It's not because of their process that they're good. It's because they found a way to master their process to the point where they understand how to get quality answers. And if I'm being real with you, most sales things are most sales methodologies are literally the same. Some people try and make it different to where they're doing things and they say, oh, don't say this word because of this and stuff like that. Yes, there are some words that throw prospects off, but I guarantee you saying the word just or only isn't going to, considerably give you a boost in your close rate or anything like that. But what does is understanding a process to the point where there's no longer confusion for you. There's no longer thinking for you, and you can be present in a conversation and actively listen to someone. But that is all. All right. So I hope this helps you guys. If it does, let me know. If it doesn't, oh, too bad. All right.